Good morning. Good morning. And I want to make sure that in spite and despite of whatever is happening out there in the news, you're about to meet one of the sunniest people ever. This is what he has been called. Our guest today is Andy Storch. And Andy, hello, Andy. So glad to see
Hi.
you. Andy is not only the author of Own Your Own Career and Your Life, something that we all need to understand, he is providing a level of practical wisdom for the new normal. But what I love most about Andy is that he doesn't bring it from high up or, this kind of ivory tower. He comes with the open wounds and the blisters
I'm
and
in
the
it with you.
scars.
I'm in it.
He's like the real deal. And that's so important because it's so easy when we're in that career space to say, well, I've done this and I've done that. That's not this guy. And so he wrote the book, Own Your Career, Own Your Life, as a continuation of his podcast called The Talent Development Hot Seat. And guess what, you guys? He is putting on a massive conference coming up in February for talent development leaders. I'm going to put that link in the chat. So you want to know, come on, it's an ever-changing landscape. You want to know how to navigate these waters? This is the guy right here. So Andy, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're so happy to have you.
Lauren, thank you so much for being here. I know you've had some fantastic guests on this show already. You've got a great network of people that are helping a wider network of people with their careers and everything else. And I'm honored to be here and I'm excited. Like, let's have some fun.
Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah.
So my first question is really like, why is your purpose the principle and practice of owning your career? Why did you decide, out of all the things that you could do, why did you decide to allocate all your time, a third of your life, to helping other people own their career and their life?
That's an interesting question. I don't know if I've gotten that question yet of all the many of these interviews I've done. I like you start off with a good one. Part of it is a lot of it has to do with my own journey. And that journey includes trying a lot of different things and really kind of drifting through my career and reacting to things throughout my 20s and even some of my 30s when I thought I had discovered a dream career in consulting and on paper was really doing very well. But something really felt like it was missing for me. And what I discovered later, and I got very lucky because I stumbled upon, actually, I listened to a lot of podcasts, and I was listening to a podcast interview at that time. This was January 2016 with a man named Hal Elrod, who wrote a book called The Miracle Morning, which I'm a big fan of. And before that, I had never really been into any type of personal development, read any books like that. And so I grabbed it right away and I started practicing this morning routine called the Miracle Morning, which essentially is waking up earlier than you need to do meditation, visualization, affirmations, reading, writing, and exercise. And a lot of these things I hadn't really done before. I started meditating for the first time and using more visualization, affirmations, a journal, etc., reading more. And I started really diving into reading a lot more books and listening to more podcasts. And what I discovered were a couple of things. Number one, was that the thing that was missing for me was growth. I just had not really been growing very much, even though, again, like I said, I was in a great career, life looked great, 6-figure job and family and all that sort of stuff, but something felt like it was missing. And what it was is growth. I realized I really need to be growing on a regular basis to feel fulfilled and happy in my life. And I bet many people can relate to this. And maybe some people listening didn't even realize that until this moment. And then the second thing was that I started to feel this really strong pull towards entrepreneurship. And that's something I had explored very early in my career. There's no entrepreneurs in my family. I don't even know how this came about. My parents were teachers, but I felt this really strong draw towards it. And so then I went on this mission of learning everything I could and trying to become an entrepreneur, leaving the corporate world and, joining mastermind groups, hiring coaches, reading lots of books, listening to podcasts, going to conferences, and eventually started building more of an entrepreneurial business as an independent consultant. And I kind of realized one day that, I've been doing all this work and learning all these things to help me create the career and life that I love. And I now have so much knowledge and experience with all these things that I've tried, some that work, that some haven't,
Right.
that could allow me to now help other people. Right. And then, the other thing was, this idea kind of came to me like a lightning bolt when I was having a conversation. I was actually doing an interview for a friend's YouTube channel, Philip Van Dusen, while we were at a conference in London in November 2019. And it kind of struck me that, I can marry my experience building an entrepreneur career with all my experience in the corporate world to help people with their own careers. Because the other thing, I keep saying the other thing, there's a lot of things, right? But the other thing that, Lauren, you run a business as well. When you get into the entrepreneurial world and you start listening to a lot of these podcasts, you hear a lot of people say, and there's books too, that, if you don't like your job, you need to quit the 9 to 5 and start your own business, right? But what I heard from so many people in my network in the corporate space was, I have no interest in being an entrepreneur, right? And most people have no business being an entrepreneur, right? They like the security, they like the camaraderie, the community, the corporate cafeteria, whatever you love about being in a bigger company. But what I think all people do want is they want to feel fulfilled. They want to feel happy about their careers, right? I know you work with so many people, Lauren, and it's like, no matter what they say they're looking for, at the end of the day, what they really want is just to feel like they're fulfilled, they're happy in their career, right? And so I felt like I had the knowledge at this point to create a guidebook for people, and that ultimately that's what most people really want. And if I can help people find that, just like, Hal helped me with his book, then I would feel more fulfilled, right? Because
Right.
what I've also learned along the way, I think originally heard this from the great Tony Robbins, who said that most fulfillment comes from growth and contribution. Well, are you growing and are you contributing? And if I feel like I'm making a difference, right, an impact in the world, helping people, then I'm going to feel more fulfilled as well. So that's why I'm on this mission to teach and inspire more people to take ownership of their careers and their lives.
This is perfect, because I not only completely agree, and it doesn't necessarily sound like this happened in a very logical, linear fashion. So, hello, everybody.
Right.
It doesn't come out of the box with instructions. This isn't IKEA, right?
I saw a graph, by the way.
Maybe it is IKEA.
Sorry to interrupt you. I saw this graphic on Instagram the other day, and maybe something Adam Grant posted. It was like, this is what you think your career is going to look like, and then this is what it really looks like. It's all over the place, right?
But whether you're down, a rabbit hole, or in the valley, or up at the peak, there is an opportunity to have a level of ownership of it. And so we're going to move over into really defining this term. What does it mean? When does the bell ring? Oh, here I am owning my career. Like I'm in it. And what are the common mistakes that people make that force us to miss that piece in order to achieve it?
Yeah. So owning your career and your life at its core means taking full responsibility for everything going on in your career and your life. It's treating it like it is a business, even if you're not necessarily an entrepreneur, right? You're an entrepreneur of your career. Taking full responsibility and saying, like, no matter what's going on, even though there are many things that are out of my hands, I am going to focus on the things that I can control. And I'm going to set a vision and make a plan for what I want to achieve in my career. The big mistake that I'm, trying to solve for, that I see so often, is I've observed so many people really drifting through their careers, right? They're operating in reaction mode. They're waiting for someone else to tell them what to do or where to go. Could be their manager, could be their friends, could be their parents, right? And that's especially true for many people early in their careers, right? Their parents have such a strong influence, and that's normal. That's okay. This is about taking, and as people are drifting, right, then they tend to operate more in a victim mindset, right? Everything in life happens to me. I've got to wait for this to happen. My boss passed me over. I didn't get this job. Why, it's all their fault. Instead of, really taking ownership of the situation and always asking, like, how can I take responsibility for this? What part do I play? What can I control? And then focusing most of your energy on that. And you and I were talking even before we started recording, when I think about this ownership mindset and this idea of focusing your energy on things that are within your control, there are a lot of things in the world that are outside of our control, right? Politics, the world economy. These are two very volatile things that are in the news a lot lately, right? The company leadership, like whether your company decides to change directions or lay people off, or
I mean, wake up this morning, 13% of the workforce over at Meta.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, you look at the big tech companies.
Or later last week, it was Twitter.
Right. Yeah, Meta's laying off 11,000.
Nobody expected that to happen.
Yep. Yeah, Meta's laying off 11,000 employees. Twitter's laying off a lot of people. Salesforce, a lot of big companies have been announcing these things. For most of us, this is out of our control. Also, we can't control our boss. We can't control our spouse. We can't control our kids. We can't control our pets. There's an illusion sometimes that we think we can. We can influence, right? But what we can control is how we show up, how we react to these things that happen, how we treat other people, how hard we work, how we spend our time, maybe how we spend our money. There's a lot of things that are within our control. And so I want to focus most of my energy on what are the things that I can control. I'm not going to worry and try not to worry too much about the other things. Now, of course, it's natural to be nervous about, the layoffs are happening. Like, I might lose my job, right? Mm-hmm. Of course, you might be nervous about that. But again, coming back to what is in your control. Well, making a backup plan, building a network, having conversations with your manager, making sure you're working on the top strategic priorities so that you are a more valuable, part of the business. There's a lot of things you can be doing to prepare for that. And that's where taking ownership comes in. It's avoiding being a victim and saying, I'm going to take full responsibility for every situation.
So you came here with 5 wonderful things. And these are the steps that you talk about in your book. So for any of you who don't journal, Andy's a big journaler. So grab a notebook so that you have something to write these down, because I don't want you to sit here and just listen. One of the things that both Andy and I are like adamant about is this information will be useless as soon as we get off of this live and you do nothing with it. I can promise you. It might be entertaining. You might have a good time. But honestly, the reason why we're doing this is not so that Andy and I can like hang out together, although that's going to happen.
It's a good incentive.
The point is, this is for you because it works. We wouldn't be here if it doesn't. So grab a notebook or something to write with so that you can talk about at the end of this and put something in the chat to tell us, okay, I'm going to take action on this. This is what I'm going to do when I get off the call. So give us, please, your action steps, your 5 pieces to what it means to own your career.
All right. So once you have, you sort of made this commitment to, I'm going to be taking ownership, I'm going to be taking responsibility. The first step is to set a clear vision for where you want to go in your career. Some of you may already have a very good idea of what you want to do. Other people, that may be a new concept and you're not sure because you kind of just, like I said, a lot of people are drifting. They show up to work every day and just hope that things work out for them. But what I found, is that the more clarity we have on a vision for where we want to go, the easier it is to make a plan and be making regular progress towards something. And it's also easier to make decisions when big situations come up, either opportunities, maybe a recruiter calls you with a new job opportunity or your boss offers you something, or maybe layoffs happen and you're possibly going to be losing your job. And you can ask, do these things align with my vision or not? And how do I respond based on where I'm trying to go in my career? For example, if you work in marketing, but you've decided like, I really want to make a move over to HR. I love working with people. And then your boss offers you a big promotion and says, hey, we want you to be director of marketing and it's going to come with more money and everything. Do you take that? Or do you say, well, I appreciate it, but I've actually been thinking about making this move over here because I think I'll be happier in HR. That's up to you, right? This is something that's very personal. And if you don't have that yet, Going back to kind of step 0 of owning your career, I think something really important there is spending time in self-reflection to really get to know yourself, self-awareness, right? I know you're big on this, Lauren, and you mentioned journaling. A lot of people don't take much time for this, to get to know who you are, your strengths, your weaknesses, how you got to where you are. What are your energizers? What are the things that you love doing? What are your values, your drivers? And that can help guide you towards a more clear vision of where you want to go. The second step.
I want to just put a note in this, because anybody who's ever worked with me or talked with me knows that I'm big on the why. Why are you doing what you do to begin with? Because honestly, the title is a placeholder, and it can also be very generic. I'm a creative director. I'm a marketing manager. Like, how many of those are there?
Yeah.
So people hire not what you do, why you do it. Because both Andy and I are in the career space, but our whys may be very complementary, but they can also be very different. He's coming more from a talent development angle, and I'm coming at it from more of a, I help get you found.
That's right.
I don't want people to be like slaving all day. I want some of that activity to make sure that it's coming by virtue of an attraction.
Yeah, it's a great call out, Lauren, because I do think the purpose element is really important here, the why behind what you're doing. And I think I have a chapter on that in the book as well. And it's not like you have to have this grand purpose, like I want to change the world and impact the lives of 1 million people, right? It's just answering that question. Like, if you set this vision, this goal, you want to work in HR, or you want to be vice president one day, or you want to get a job in tech, or whatever it is, why do you want that? Like, knowing that why will help drive you, especially when things get really tough, right? And
100%.
It's the simple question, as you mentioned too, of like, why do you go to work every day? And most people will say, well, because they pay me to. Well, why do you do this thing that you do? Because there's a lot of options out there, right? There are millions of jobs available.
Exactly. You chose this for a reason. What is it?
Right. And maybe you didn't choose it. Maybe you feel like you didn't choose it. Maybe you you stumbled upon it. You accidentally moved into this career. Well, why are you staying, right? Is it just because it's comfortable? Or do you actually like it? Is it moving toward, are you helping you grow? Do you feel like you're contributing? All of those things. So step 1 is setting that vision and connecting to a purpose, as you mentioned. Step 2 would be to set some clear, specific goals. I'm a big fan of the SMART framework, which I know many people are familiar with, stands for specific, measurable, actionable, relative, and time-bound. But taking that big vision and then breaking it down into manageable milestones, goals, habits that will help set you up for success and keep moving you toward that big vision. Because oftentimes we set this big vision and then it seems like very intimidating. It's overwhelming. I've certainly been there. I remember before I started writing my book, I have this idea. I want to be a published author. And I asked people how many words are in a typical business book. And they told me 50,000 words. That seemed huge. I've never written a book before, right? But then I had a mentor, Honore Corridor, who is a book coach. And she said, just break it down, write 500 words a day for 100 days. And you got 50,000 words. And so I was like, oh, okay. So that's exactly what I did. And I just established the habit of writing every day to get the book out there. You can do that with whatever your career goal is. And you just, the key is you want to be specific about it, because when you say something like, I want to get in better shape, or I want to be successful, like, what does that mean, right? Lauren, someone comes to you and says, Lauren, I want to be successful. Shout
out to my coach Vamsi, because we're doing 100 push-ups a day for the month of November. So
nice.
Anyone wants to join me, just put it in the chat. I'll reach out to you so that we can stay accountable.
Jump on the 100 push. I've done some push-up challenges over the years. Always fun with people, especially when you have that accountability and sharing online and everything.
Totally. It was late last night and I'm like, oh no, I had 20 more.
Like, I got to do it. So
number 3.
So get really specific on, what are those goals? So instead of, I want to be successful, maybe I want to get a promotion to director in the next 3 months by, taking on 2 extra projects and having regular conversations with my manager for feedback, right? Something that if I'm holding you accountable, I could call you on a Friday and ask, did you do your 100 push-ups every day this week? Did you talk to your manager? That sort of thing. Step 3 is to set yourself up for future success, to prepare for the future. And we are in a time right now, right, where there is a lot of change going on. There's a lot of uncertainty. We have no idea what's coming around the bend. I mean, 2020 taught us, right, that we can never predict the future. We have no idea what's going to happen. And the pace of change today is faster than it's ever been before. And yet it's slower today than it's ever going to be. And therefore, I believe the pace of change is faster today than it's ever been before and slower today than it's ever going to be. So it's not going to slow down. We need to keep up. So there are 3 things you can do to set ourselves up for future success that we can always be doing no matter what's going on in the economy. Number 1 is to invest in continuous learning, to keep up on the latest trends, right? Always be reading, listening to podcasts, watching shows like this, going on LinkedIn, whatever it is that will help you to stay up on what's going on in your industry and the trends and the things that you need to know about. Because the days of getting a college degree and working in that field for 40 years without any other education those days are over, right? That's gone. So make sure you're investing in continuous learning. Number 2 is build your network. This is obvious for a lot of people, but a lot of people, even if they know it, they shy away from it, right? Nothing has been more essential for my own career success than relationships and having a network of people that I can reach out to that have brought job opportunities to me, business opportunities, all these things. And I'm always looking to help other people in my network as well, right? So building that network, connecting with people on a regular basis, following up, keeping in touch with old, colleagues and friends, whatever it may be. Everybody's got their different way or system of doing this. And we could certainly go into more detail on that. But I think it's really, really important that we're always networking and making connections. And then the third thing to set yourself up for future success is building your personal brand. Right? And your personal brand, I know you know all about this, Lauren. It is essentially your reputation. It's what people think about you, what they feel about you, what they say about you when you're not around. And we all have a brand. We all have a reputation, whether we are intentional about it or not.
Right.
So I think it's a good idea to be intentional about it. And of course, I never want anybody to be fake. I'm a big fan of authenticity, right? Like be yourself, who you are, but you could also be mindful about how you are showing up and how you show up impacts your brand, impacts your reputation, right? You can be mindful and ask yourself, what do I want my brand to stand for? What do I want to stand for? Is it about being hardworking? Is it about integrity? Is it about kindness and generosity? Is it about being inspiring? Whatever it is. And then ask yourself on a regular basis, am I showing up in alignment with that? And even get feedback from colleagues and friends. What is my brand? What do people think about me? And a lot of times they'll tell you about strengths and things that you're really good at that you don't even realize, right? Because a lot of people have these strengths. Lauren, before we started recording, you and I were talking about the book Multipliers by Liz Weissman. In that book, she talks about everybody having a quote, native genius, that thing that you're implicitly like very good at that other people are kind of in awe of. And oftentimes when we have these strengths, we just assume that other people are probably good at them too, when they're not, right? Like everyone else is looking at you.
What's your native genius?
Yeah, everyone else is looking at you.
Andy?
My native genius. So my native genius is primarily connecting people, being a connector, connecting with others, building relationships. And then it's also being able to get up in front of a room to speak, to tell stories, to share, and to inspire other people. And so as I've learned about those things, and being very like inquisitive, curious, and like, but that kind of goes with the building relationships. As I've learned those things and repeatedly complimented by people on those things, which is another hard lesson I learned over the years, right? Is that people will compliment us on the things we're good at. And because we're taught very young to like be very humble, we always like push that off. Like, I just got lucky, or like, I'm not very good at that. And then we never get a chance to really embrace our strengths. But when people compliment you on something, embrace it, right? We all know what we're not good at, but embrace those things that you are good at so that you can really lean into that for your career. I'm not very detail oriented, but some people are like, so good at that. And we need each other, right? Like I need the detail people in my life. Yeah.
Such a good call. I worship every project manager.
Yeah, exactly. And I have a great project manager on my team. I wouldn't be able to do all the things I do, running a business, 2 podcasts, a membership community, a conference. I don't know. I have a family. I don't know what else I'm doing, speaking gigs and all this stuff. I wouldn't be able to do it if I didn't have a really great assistant who is detail oriented and keeps track of all the stuff, right? And we complement each other. She's running all the operations for our conference. So we've got to be doing these things to set ourselves up for future success. Step 4 is developing that ownership mindset that we talked about earlier. And I think it's also important to be thinking about operating with more of a growth mindset as well. Mindset is everything, right? It really is the underlying factor that impacts all of the things that we do. It's our outlook on our life, It's our perspective. If you ever look around and you see some people that are just like, oh, everything in the world is awful. People are terrible. They're so rude. And then someone else that you know is like, everything is wonderful. And you're like, how do these people live in the same freaking world, right? But they do, because they have different mindsets. They have different perspectives and different outlooks on the world. Certainly everybody has different backgrounds and experience as well. So developing the ownership mindset we talked about, operating with a growth mindset, I think is really important. This comes from the book Mindset, New Psychology of Success by Dr. Carol Dweck from Stanford. When I read that book, it absolutely changed my life, because I realized I grew up with a very fixed mindset. Everything is kind of, you're good at something or you're not. And growth mindset allows you to really lean in, try different things, try big things and not worry as much about failure, because with a growth mindset, I believe there's no such thing as failure. There's only feedback and growth, right? You try something that doesn't work. Okay, let's learn from that experience. And then the last step is to own your life and be willing to pivot, right? Because we talked about setting a vision and knowing where you want to go in your career, but we can't be so married to that we're going to be like incredibly upset when things don't work out the way you want them to, right? Because we know the only constant in life is change, right? Things are changing all the time. Challenges are going to come up. I've had plenty of challenges that have sidetracked my plans, right? We got to take ownership of that situation, be willing to pivot and see, okay, how can I make the best of this and know where to go? And then make sure that we are taking care of our health along the way, right? Because we have a long career, I think, and we're going to be more productive. We're going to be able to work longer. We're going to be happier when we take care of our health, which means get enough sleep. I know you've had a sleep expert on the show recently, Lauren, right? Get enough sleep, eat a healthy diet, move your body on a regular basis. Lauren, we both went to the gym this morning, right? You're doing this push-up challenge. Do things to move your body, challenge your body, and take care of your mental health as well. I meditate every single day, take walks, take breaks, take vacations, just do things that are going to support your mental health, and realize that work is not everything, right? I know we all need to do it. Most of us need to do it to support ourselves, but work is not everything. So remember your health, your family, the things that are most important to you.
Excellent. So there's a couple of pieces that I just want to, I have a friend that always says this, and now I'm doing it, double tap into. So this whole mindset thing, oh my goodness, that's 90% of your game. It really is. And I love that you referenced the book. Remind me the name of it, Andy.
Which
Carol
one?
Dweck. Carol Dweck.
Mindset, the New Psychology of Success by Dr. Carol Dweck.
I'm gonna get that, and I'm also gonna send you, if you have not read this. I don't know if you have heard me talk about this book. Sorry, but if you have not, this is like a huge gift. Get the book by Dr. Benjamin Hardy called The Gap and the Gain. This has been one of the most unbelievably simple and game-changing ways to actually force yourself to live in the gain and not the gap. One of the ways is to measure your wins every day. To measure your wins every day.
Yeah, I like that.
All those little things, not just the stuff that's like in your to-do list, but you had a great call with your kids to actually put that in context of the whole, because we're always looking at our to-do list with all the things we have to do tomorrow.
It's never over, right? It's
never over. I'm like, oh my God,
ends.
I'm like 85% of the way through, and then
it never ends.
Like,
I don't know how anybody retires, because the work never stops. Right?
Exactly. So that for sure is amazing. I will also follow up and put that in the link, but in the feed. And then the other piece that you really talked about, which is the health piece. Again, just coming off of 4 days of Unleash the Power Within and jumping up and down. Oh yeah. Jumping up and down.
I've been there. Awesome.
That peak state that he refers to is the change in physiology.
Yeah.
So when you're sitting all day, which sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, just moving your body will actually start that dopamine hit. It'll kind of course through your veins, and you'll feel better. You'll feel different. So it's very natural. While all of these things are so vital, we all fall off track. Like I fall off track all day long. I
Yeah.
run downstairs. I have 68 stairs in my building. I'm on the 5th floor of a walk up. I run downstairs to see if there's mail, and then I run back up just because.
Nice. I like it.
So, these are ways that you can play with your brain and also take ownership, because you can't be in a tunnel all the time. I also lastly love how much you talked about your network, right? When we are meeting other people and when we are actually helping other people, we're getting outside of ourselves, which is something I has been so powerful for me.
Yeah.
And then I feel like, wow, I just contributed. Contribution isn't just a promotion, or contribution isn't just an opportunity to, have a new title. Contribution is helping somebody else get to where they need to go.
Yep.
And making sure, and that's growth too, because it's not that easy sometimes reaching out to people and being like, would you please, that's growth, to take that risk.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm such a big fan and believer of that. And for those that are thinking, yeah, I know networking is important, I haven't done that much of it, or I shy away from it. The two things that I think are really important when it comes to networking is, number one, leading with curiosity, right? Always lead with curiosity. When you meet people, try to get to know them as best you can, learn about them. Dale Carnegie wrote about this in the 1930s, How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? He said everybody's favorite subject is themselves. It's still true today, right? Like, we're all thinking about ourselves all the time, and rarely do people give us an opportunity to talk about it. So give people that opportunity. And then the second thing is to always give before taking, right? Before asking for anything in return. Always look for ways to provide value, to help other people. And what I have observed over time, and give with no expectations. This is the really key for a lot of people. Abundance mindset, give with no expectations, never keep score. Like, I'm going to do something to help you learn, and I'm going to forget about it. I don't expect anything from you, right? And what I've learned over time, you can call it karma or whatever you want, but the more I give to others, the more comes back to me. And it's not always the same person, right? It's somebody else, it's something else, it's different magnitudes. I don't even think about it. Again, no expectations, which, by the way, side note, great way to live, because another thing I've learned is the root of all disappointment and frustration is in missed expectations, right? It's when we expect something and it doesn't happen. So when you expect other people to do things for you, especially if you don't clearly communicate it, then you are setting yourself up for disappointment, right? So just give to others, no expectations, try to keep expectations low for a lot of things in life, and you can avoid that disappointment. But I find it just keeps coming back. And it's how I'm able to build such a big network and have so many friends, because I'm just always looking for ways to help other people. And people appreciate that, right? And, and it's like, just a small example, I talked earlier about writing my book. When I went to publish the book, obviously whether you publish a book or not, you probably know, like, when you publish a book, one of the most important things is try to go get reviews on your book, right? Ask people like, hey, will you go write a review for me on Amazon? By the way, anybody out there, if you're getting my book, I'd really appreciate it if you'd write a review on Amazon. But something I realized right away is, like, I can't expect other people to write reviews for my book or my podcast if I'm not doing it for them, right? So I go out of my way anytime I have a friend or anyone I know who publishes a book or a podcast, or I read a good book, to go leave a review on Amazon.
Right.
Because if I want other people to do that for me, I've got to do that for them. I've got to put it out into the universe. As Asha said, it's the balance of goodness in the universe.
I love that.
Put out there what you want to come back to you. Reap what you sow, I guess they say.
Yes. I need a t-shirt that says overpaid, because I feel like my network and my community, especially on LinkedIn, and people like you, Andy, have given so much more than I have ever expected, that I ever dreamed of. And when I talk a lot about networking, a lot of the times my clients will be like, well, when do I get to the part where I'm asking them for a job? I'm like, no. You don't even still know them yet. Just because you're connected on LinkedIn, now you get to go and do something really, really fun, like have coffee with them, find out about, how they start their morning routine. Is there any, like, cool secret sauce in there? And you guys it just organically grows from there. And I am so happy that you're in my network. I think you're the bee's knees, the bomb.com. I really do. And I
Feeling is mutual.
appreciate so much that you are here today. Also, side note, Andy and I, we work with similar people. We're not in competition. We're like
Nope.
constantly like pushing each other up and helping each other to build. So find somebody in your network today and see what you can do with and for them.
By the way, can I just interject too? Because just an example, the power of the network. I'm just thinking, oh, how did we get connected? We got connected through a mutual friend, right?
Through Liam.
And what's that?
Through Liam.
Was it through Liam?
Mm-hmm. Well, I knew that Liam had put out a post when you were going through some health issues.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm going to reach out to this guy because I went through some similar related health issues.
That's right. Yeah.
And you were a stranger.
That's great. But we found each other on LinkedIn. We had a conversation. We found commonalities, right? Which I think when you connect with anybody and you're having that conversation, I always think of it, it's almost like a dance. You're kind of searching for what is that thing that we have in common that we can hold on to. I went through cancer last year, as you alluded to. You've had your health challenges. And, we had conversations about that. We're both in the career space. How can we help each other? How can we collaborate? And then so I was, so honored and excited when you invited me on this show. And this is what we do, right? And look for ways to help and support each other. I'm always going to be looking for ways to help and support you. I think you're going to be coming to my conference in February. So I'm excited to meet you in person. It's just fantastic.
Well, amen. And you started off this day, like the post-workout, like follow-up was just as energizing. I just want you to know, like I did my chin-ups and then I got this. It's amazing. Thank you, Andy Storch, so much. I'm so excited for everything that you're doing with your book, with your podcast, with the conference, and how you are helping so many people. And I'm so also thrilled that this was the answer to your purpose and that you are here to grow and contribute. So have an awesome rest of your day. I hope it stops raining out there and when you go pick up your kids, but if not, I know you're going to own the day. So
we'll have fun.
Thank you, everybody. Hang around for a few minutes, Andy, and thank you, everybody. See you next Wednesday. There's a special Wednesday, blast and a half next week in preparation for Thanksgiving. I don't want to give it all away. Okay, bye.